Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be setting up React Query with Next.js. And we're going to be setting that up in a way where you can use both React Query in the server side and also in the client side. So let's get the ball rolling. Alright, so what I have here is a simple Next.js application that I created, nothing fancy. And so the first thing we're going to do to implement React Query with Next.js is we're going to be installing it. We're going to be npm add @10stack /react -query. And so we're going to be installing React Query, and it's been installed. And after installing React Query, what we have to do is we kind of have to wrap the entire application in a React Query provider. And so you see the layout.tsx, we have to basically wrap a provider on top of the children, so everything has an access to our React Query. And so we do that by creating a provider. And so the way that I like to do that is in the source directory, I create a providers folder. And in this folder, I'll just create I don't know, let's call it query provider.tsx. And this file, make sure that it's use client, so it's using the client component. And this is what we do here. Now what I've done here is I've basically created a function called React Query Provider. And in this function, I take the children as a parameter, and this is basically so that we can wrap the whole children in the query client provider. And we return the query client provider, as simple as that. But you're going to see that the query client provider is kind of complaining. And so the reason it's complaining is because it needs a client, but we haven't created it. So to create the client, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the same providers folder, and we're going to call it, let's say, get query provider, get query client. Let's just call it get query client. You can name it whatever you want. Again, you have a lot of freedom here. And in this file, what we're going to be doing is I'm actually going to paste the code here. I'll just walk you through what you have to do because it's a lot of code and it wastes a lot of time if I were to step by step go through everything. Alright, so what this code does is the first thing, we have a make query client function that returns a query client. And make sure in the stale time it's not infinity. I don't know why it was written infinity there, but make sure to set a stale time of 60 times 1,000. That's pretty good. And basically what we do in this function is we're returning a query client so that we can use it. It's like an instance that's been created every time you call the function. So below that, it's a variable browser query client, and this variable is just query client or it's undefined. And we kind of use this variable to use query client in the client side, and I'll tell you how. So this is the main function, the main crux of it, which is the get query client function that we're exporting. And in this function, the first thing we're doing is we're checking if we're on the server using the isServer thing that we get from 10stack query or React query, whatever you want to call it. And here, if we are on the server, we just return the make query client. So that means every time we're on the server and we're using the query client, we're returning a new instance. And below that, if we're not on the server, what we do is we check if the browser query client is undefined or not. And if it is undefined, what we do is we basically initialize it with the query client. And if it's not undefined, meaning it already was initialized with the query client, then we return it, as simple as that. And so we go back to our query provider.tsx, and here let's create a variable called client, and we just call that get query client from this whole thing, and we pass the client over here, and it works. And the other step that we're going to be doing is we're going to be wrapping this whole React query provider in our layout.tsx. So just above the children component, create a React query provider, and in this we're going to be wrapping our children. So just paste it here and it works. And if you want to test the query client, what you can do is, we're just going to do a little thing here. Go to page.tsx or anything. Let's just say that const client, well, I spelled client wrong there. Client is equals to get query client. And so right now we're going to have the server client because we're in the server side here. And you can use this client to basically do anything you want. You could use it to prefetch the query and, prefetch data from the server and hydrate your client side. And you can do basically anything you can with React Query. And so that's about it, guys. That's how you set up React Query with Next.js. If you liked the video, click the like button, subscribe if you want to, and have a nice day.